Hey folks, Small Designs here. This is part 7 of the HK 1/32 scale B-25B Mitchell build. So as you can see, more work has been done to the wings and we've done some work to the engines. Now, the engines are a tricky thing to paint and I'm going to explain why in a little bit, but first onto the wings. So since the last video, we've added decals. Now, you have seen the insignia decals, but the US Army ones, those are new. Now, there's no company that makes them, so you're going to have to do those yourself, at least as far as 1/32 scale is concerned, especially for the B25, right? They're a specific size. So I used Tester's decal paper, and I had to do it a few times, right? Because they want to curl up on you. They don't want to fit right, so you are going to have to fight with it, at least I did. But eventually I did get them on there, and I'm 95% happy with it, just because that's what I had to work with. So they are on there. They do look good, but I'm going to have to do a little bit more weathering over top of them, and just to make it look, 100%. So we're not quite done with them yet, but at least they're on there, and they do look good. So there we are. Now, as you can see, weathering has been applied, and I think it looks pretty good for the first coat of weathering, I should say. Now, what I used are my Optilong oils. I really like these. Now, I mixed those together to get that color. It's kind of like a light gray brownish color, and that's what I used to discolor the wings, top and bottom. So basically what I did, just to step back a little bit, is obviously we had a clear coat over top, right? So I applied the clear coat, did the decals, and then I applied a clear coat, the TS13, over top the decals. And then I applied my slurry, I like to call it, right? And then I let it dry. Now when I applied that, I did not apply any slurry whatsoever on my de-icing boots, because those were added, just prior to the mission. So my de-icing boots have no weathering on them whatsoever. I might add a little bit of paint chipping to them in a bit, but as far as weathering goes, those were added just prior to the mission. So those have no weathering on them at all. So anyway, getting back to the weathering, and then after I let that dry, I applied another clear coat, which is a flat clear coat, which is the TS80. And then I took my sponge, just a dry sponge, and rubbed it all over the wing, just to get, because sometimes a flat clear coat almost leaves like, not a fuzz, but kind of like a fur sometimes over top of it. And then once again, I used my slurry and did another coat over top the wings. And then I let it dry, and that's where I left it. And this is what's going to give you that. I'm going to try and move the wings here. It should be, it's not on there clamped on, it's just sitting there. And this is what will give you that paint fade look. If you look at the wings, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but if you look at the wings, it doesn't have that new look anymore. It almost has that sun fade look to the wings now, because we used the clear coats, the flat clear coat, and then of course the 2 layers of my slurry. Now it looks used, and it doesn't look shiny green anymore. It looks faded. In person, it definitely looks more faded. Now we can add paint chipping, streaks, and other things. This is still probably drying, but if you look close, you can see where all that weathering has grabbed inside the wings. Just gonna flip it to the underside of the wing now. I'll get the other wing. If it's bouncy, I'm sorry. I'm trying to hold the camera and show you guys here. and this is still drying. I want to give this a good week to dry so it doesn't, if you look at the star here, it's yeah, you can definitely tell that it's not shiny green anymore. It looks faded. But now we can go for the paint chipping and things like that. I could start sanding it a bit, and now it's going to look really used. So, getting to the engines. Now, when you paint these, see how the paint on the bottom looks offset? What I mean is the gray. It looks like I painted it wrong. It looks like I should have had this gray more over here. Make sure it's offset looking, because when it goes onto the wings are going to sit like this, is going to sit more like this on the wing. See how the plastic is cut? Like that. So when this goes onto the wing, it's going to sit like this. So if it looks wrong, it's right. If that makes sense. So that's why the paint job doesn't look quite right. So keep that in mind when you go to mask your paint. It depends on what version you're doing, right? Because we're doing the B-25B in the Doolittle paint scheme. So that might not even matter to you. But if it looks wrong, it's right, so to speak. So again, this will balance itself out later, and you'll see it later. So because you know, these are open, that's why these push rods are like this. So I obviously did that. I dirtied it up with my Starship Filth, painted it in aluminum, and then you do want to paint the insides like that. I still have to dirty these up because the way the engine sits, this will be visible right here. So if you leave this gray or whatever, that'll look like a plastic model kit. So very important to paint the insides here. No weathering has gone into this yet, or paint chipping, so we are on to the stages here soon where I'll be putting those individual pieces that I had puttied and covered. So you'll be seeing that soon. If you go back to like part 2 or 3 or whichever part I did that in, you'll start to see those covers be placed on soon. And then of course, those are the rods that hold those open. Now, obviously, we've got a clear coat over top of the paint job here, and the same thing applies with just going back a little bit. You can discolor some of these panels a little bit, and that's what I did with this. The light will catch it. I only did a few on the engines, very similar to the wings, right? Let's see if I can find, you know, a panel that I might see right there. If the light will even pick it up here. See, there's a panel that I discolored there. You don't have to go too heavy on this. So now there might be a few decals or decals, however you want to pronounce that, that go on here. So right now is a good time to do it because we have a clear coat on. So the same thing will apply to the weathering on the wings, right? So we'll get the decals on there, and then we'll do another clear coat to seal in the decals, and then the weathering. So there we go. I think that should cover it for this video, but it's an important step, right? Because we are, you know, starting to deal with the decals and such. The flaps and moving surfaces are probably going to be the very last thing. We'll weather them up and paint them, but they'll be attached last because the chances of you knocking them are very high. So it's best to put those on later. And we'll go from there. So thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And the next videos should start to see some major detail going on the inside now and start to close up the plane. So thanks so much, guys.